Welcome back to Cyprus Asking People Things. Last episode, we had Daniel Codia. I hope you all enjoyed that. Today, we are this is actually being recorded directly after that last episode, so I'm cheating a little bit. But we've got the extraordinary Aaron Tsindos. Tsindos with a T at the start.
That's correct. Tsindos. It's actually from Cyprus.
Oh, Cyprus with a US.
That's right. Cyprus.
So I've got you on here today is because you're not just a musical theatre actor, but you are a film and TV actor, which I find...
I try to be, yeah.
Well, you don't have to try because I've seen your stuff and it's funny. I love it.
Thank you.
And I have you on because I've just been so interested with everybody in this company of Merrily, and I've been overhearing some of your conversations about your journey is incredible, and I think a lot of people can get a lot out of it. But I'm going to stop waffling on, and I'm just going to let you introduce yourself, what you do, a little bit of what you've done as well, and yeah.
Great. Well, my name is Aaron Constantine Tsindos, is my full name, ACT, which spells act, weirdly enough.
Wow.
Even though the T is silent. But I was born in Tacoma Park in Maryland, in America, just outside of DC, and came to Australia with my parents when I was very young. I was like 1 or 2 or something. And grew up in a suburb called Doncaster in Melbourne with my mum and dad and my sister. I have an older sister. And did all my schooling around there. So I went to a school called Doncaster Primary School, and whose motto was "Aim High," which was nice. And then I went to a high school which was called East Doncaster Secondary College. And then I graduated high school, and when I was doing my Year 12 exams, I was also auditioning for drama schools. So I really wanted to go to VCA. I'd been wanting to be an actor for a while. I actually wanted to kind of do a whole bunch of other stuff. I wanted to be like I think part of me really wanted to be like a bioengineer so that I could make like a spider that had like powers, and then it would bite me and I could become like Spider-Man, right? And this is probably like year 9 or 10. So like almost too old for that type of thinking. But I thought weirdly practically about trying to become a superhero. Anyway, and then I also wanted to go into medicine or surgery, and I was pretty good with things like maths and chemistry and science and stuff like that. And then I kind of wanted to do all these different things, and I kind of realized I could get to do all those different things if I did acting. So I started doing it about year 9, I think was the first year I did it. I begged my parents to pay for like a summer school thing at the Victorian College of the Arts in Melbourne, to do like an acting course there over a summer. And I did that, and it was for kind of like for kids. So it was meant to be from age, I don't know, 12 to 17 or something like that. And I think at the time I was like 15. And I didn't like that because one thing that I've always kind of struggled with is being talked to like a kid, which I mentioned to you before. That kind of got me into a lot of trouble because even when I was a kid, I didn't like being talked to like a kid. And I kind of struggled with the way that the classes weren't, not that they weren't advanced enough, they just were a little bit simple.
Yeah.
And I kind of was like, oh shit, is this what acting is? You know? And VCA had at the time a really specific style of acting training. So it was really kind of imaginative, and there was this thing called dropping in, and it was very... you kind of it's very visualized based. You'd visualize everything. And it kind of threw me, and I was like, shit, maybe I don't want to be an actor because this is weird. And then I kind of chatted to my parents about it and thought about it. I was like, oh, I think it's the style of the workshop, actually, like the style of that summer school thing that I did. So I kind of I would do kind of work around the house. Like I would clean my house for my family, and that's how I kind of got my money. And I ended up saving up money and doing courses, or getting them for like a Christmas present or a birthday present, or both. So then every year I would do courses. And after that first course, I then lied to VCA saying that I was 18, even when I was like 15, so that I could do the adult courses. And and so I did adult courses and I loved them. I did like adult course in like film acting and one in like theater acting and all this other stuff. So I did that. And then when I was finishing high school and I was like 17, I was auditioning for drama schools and I really thought I was going to get into VCA. And I was like, oh, shit, man, I know all this stuff. I was like really cocky, you know? And I was like, I know all this stuff. And I auditioned for NIDA because I was like, it's NIDA, you know?
Yes.
And then I also auditioned for WAPA because I was like, well, that's the three at the time that I knew about. And I really liked Hugh Jackman and Frances O'Connor. And I really wanted to do that. And I'd always done singing and stuff. Like I'd done a lot of singing, not really much dancing. I did tap dancing for a little bit. But that was about it. But I really wanted to go to like an acting school.
Yes.
So during my year 12 exams, I learned all these monologues. I learned so many monologues because I didn't realize that you could like double up on the monologues, which were your entrance stuff for the drama schools. So I'd learned like 7 or 8 monologues, which was stupid because I could have learned 4 and just done them better, but it didn't matter. And I went into the VCA first round, which was like a big group thing. And they were like, thank you, bye. And I was like, oh, fuck. I was really disappointed. I thought I was a shoo-in and I didn't even get through the first round. And then I went to the NIDA ones and went through the first round and the second round. And then they really liked me. But the guy who was the head of acting, I think it was the head of acting, Kevin Jackson, was there and kind of pulled me aside and was like, you're really young and really inexperienced and we really like you, but it's very unlikely that you'll get in. He said, you know, you can keep going. Like we want you to keep auditioning today and for the rest of this like year of auditions. But he's like, there's sort of, you probably won't get in. So I kind of was really happy with that feedback. And he gave me some places to go to do like a 1-year acting course at in Melbourne. And then I went to the WAPA one, which was like a one-on-one thing. And I always do better in one-on-one. I get kind of weirdly like, I don't know, I get really self-conscious about certain things when I'm in like group auditions and stuff. It just feels really weird because then you have some people who are like, I have to get all the attention. Then you have people who are like, I'm just subtly being the best in the room. You know, it's like a whole fucking thing. So when it was just me and the teachers, which was the head of acting and the head of the acting course, Chris Edmund and Angela Punch McGregor, they were great and they really liked what I did. And I just did some monologues and chatted with them and everything. And then I got a call like the next day, asked me to come back for the callbacks, which were later that week, which was a group thing, but that was okay. And I went back and had this group audition thing. And then like a week or 2 weeks later, I got a call and got in. And I just finished all my exams. Like I went to my WAPA audition after having done my English exam that morning. So I did my English exam and then I hopped in the car, in my mum's car, and she drove me to the audition. So it was great. And then I was really glad I got into WAPA because it was definitely the place that I was supposed to go. I think I would have gotten kicked out. I nearly got kicked out of WAPA, but I didn't. And I got through. And I don't think I would have made it through VCA or NIDA. I don't think.
Yeah. As you know, as I know as well, there's a huge difference between tertiary education and high school education.
Yeah.
Also between summer school in quotation mark education type things. How do you feel like going into a university setting with so many other like-minded people in those high pressure situations? How do you feel like that actually motivated you?
It was great. It was great. I had no idea what to expect, to be honest. Like my experience with acting up until then had mainly been in musicals, actually, and like school shows. You know, a good friend of mine, his name's Ryan Core. We were really close when we were younger, and we've drifted apart a bit, which is a bit sad. But he's been busy. You know, he's an actor and he does a lot of stuff, and he's been working prolifically since he was young. Like he was doing kid stuff. So we would kind of nerd out about acting shit when we were kids, and we kind of hung out with the same kind of, we were all like kind of little rat bags kind of hanging out. We had the craziest nicknames, this group of people. Ryan's nickname, his name's Ryan Core. Yeah. His nickname was Shorty because he was a short dude. Yeah. Then we had a friend called Miles, whose nickname was Smurf. And then we had another friend whose nickname was Boyle, because his last name was Boyle. And then there was Kiwi, because he was from New Zealand. Yeah. And Fish, a guy called Fish, who just looked a little like a fish. You know what I mean? And it was really cruel, looking back. But, you know, he's a lovely guy. They're all lovely guys. And, you know, a lot of love to them. But It was really different. It was a really different experience. I kind of got there and had no idea how much work I had to put in out of hours. Like they kind of were like, this is a really intense course and, you're going to be doing what? They weren't American, but, and I was shocked. I had no idea. And that's partly why I didn't do too well in the first year because I didn't kind of realize, I think maybe I was a bit naive to it a lot because I'd kind of gotten straight in. And I'd never done a show outside of a school. So I didn't know about, like shit like learning your fucking lines early, like get on top of your lines early. I didn't know that stuff. And I remember talking to a friend of mine in my year and she was like, yeah, haven't you learnt your lines? I was like, should I? And then she's like, yes, you fucking learn your lines. So yeah, it was a lot. I learned a lot.
Yeah. It's a real wake-up call. I very much remember the exact same thing. I was the proverbial big fish in a little pond at my high school. It's really easy to do when you're essentially the only drummer.
Yeah.
So every other drummer was like their second instrument.
Yeah.
Auditioning for AIM, got in because of my friend. I've mentioned it before, but he knew music theory. I didn't know it.
Right.
The auditioner said, look, your friend knows it. He'll teach you. You can get into The Bachelor. It's all good. And then the first few weeks was like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? This is really, really hard.
Yeah.
I think it also touches upon what you've said as well. A little bit of the expectations of how hard the arts are in the Australian culture. We have this expectation that that is a broad statement, but overall I feel you either have it or you don't. And as you've stated, when we go into these courses, into these really courses that show us these expertise, we realize, this is actually really hard. This industry is the heights of professionalism up there with lawyers and doctors, and why we see the respect there in other countries and other nations.
Yeah, I kind of see it like, because I grew up playing a lot of basketball. Yeah. And I was playing quite high-end basketball, and getting into drama school, I kind of saw a lot of parallels to acting and sports, like elite sports, because you have to look after your body. You have to look after a lot of aspects of your body, right? And you have to train the shit out of yourself. Like you have to train so much. And there's also no guarantee of success, which is like really fucking tough to deal with.
Yes. Yeah. Like there are only a certain amount of shows in Sydney.
Oh, yeah. And that's recently has been even less, you know?
Yeah, like when I'm very grateful, but thinking of the perspective of, there are only a few dozen professional shows going on, and I'm one of the drummers for it. And I'm earning a weekly wage from that. And it's a huge perspective. But if I was an accountant, everybody needs their tax done. 26 million people need their tax done a year. Yeah. You're going to be guaranteed.
Yeah, but people need rhythm, man. They need rhythm. The drummer is a crucial part of society, has been for a long time.
Yes. Yes. Such as the actor, as I believe you were having a conversation the other week. I wasn't in the conversation, but you were talking about Socrates or Plato, and you were talking about Homer and the Odyssey.
Oh yeah,
that's what you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, as Plato states in the Republic, the entertainers of a society can set the values.
Oh yeah. I think it's a really interesting conversation, because I feel like that's become bigger recently. Over the last few years, there's been a lot of this sort of line between being an artist and an activist has become really thin. And I think that especially with things like social media, there's been such a heavy weight put on artists and actors, mainly on actors. And I think that's because they are on social media, right? So like if a show comes out and if people aren't happy with the way the casting looks on that show, which can be for completely valid reasons, the actors tend to get the real brunt of it. And I don't know, I think that it's important as well to think of yourself, if you are an actor, to think of yourself a bit like an artist, because you kind of go, well, what's my purpose here? What am I doing for the people around me? But also, that's also a real privileged space to be in. Sometimes you just got to fucking pay your rent, you know? Sometimes you got to pay whatever off, or you're like, well, I either work in a bar or I do this show, and, you know, you want to do the show normally.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and it's there is that burden and that weight of people are looking at you. People will take, which I have seen before, the supposed facts within a show, which we both know you have to condense facts in a show as well.
Yeah.
Even if you're trying to be truthful, you have to condense things to form a narrative.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it becomes a biography, and even then, a biography has to still be 2 hours, 3 hours maximum. And then you write an encyclopedia, then, you know, you're writing an encyclopedia.
Yeah.
So even if you're trying hard, you're still working in the confines of narrative, which can be, you know, extremely hard for us as creatives to fully represent everything.
Yeah, well, I just think you can't.
Exactly.
You sort of can't. And, you know, like, there are so many different opinions on things, right? I'm not talking about real big, obvious things, for instance, like sexism or racism or all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about, like, the way a person's represented a role or a character or something.
Yes.
And, you know, there's been this really interesting shift or discussion going on about every person's opinion has validity.
Yes.
And I think that that's actually a really dangerous way of thinking about it. It sets apart a sense of community. It kind of makes it more about an individual, which I think is more dangerous, because I think that we should always be thinking about the people around us, about our community, and the impact that we have on that community. There's this really great Greek word, which I think I've told you about, called philotimo, which is like it's like a philosophy, kind of like a lifestyle sort of in Greek culture, which is about it sort of loosely translates to friend of honor or friend to honor, right? But it's not a friend that you should honor, as in like you should honor me as your friend. It's I am a friend to the concept of honor. And so I have a responsibility to be honorable, to live my life honorably to the best of my ability. And if I fuck up, I own the fuck up. And, you know, that's sort of part of what I think is really important. And I feel like that's really slipping away at the moment.
Yeah. So you have actually, from what I've heard the musings of just throughout the theatre, you have a really wide intellectual sphere of
thank you.
acting, but also the philosophy behind acting, because I've noticed quite a few actors and musical performers getting into philosophical degrees, as in university philosophical degrees. Ben Gerard was one. Just got his master's of philosophy.
Yeah.
Because being part of several readings now of things, because I'm still fresh to musical theatre. There's a lot of philosophy that goes into learning the roles, why a certain character is doing something, the actions, the implication of a show as a whole, why a character does something. Did you expect to encounter this? Were your teachers at high school, university? Was there any sort of preparation for this, or did you happen to stumble upon this?
I think what you're the way I kind of hear what you're saying is like, is what I kind of call homework, right?
Yeah.
Like it's sort of all tied into the stuff about identity of artistry and artist identity and artistic identity, all that kind of stuff. And I think it's really important if you do feel like you're an artist, because like not every actor feels like they're an artist, right? Like there are some people who will like get a job on something like Home and Away or Neighbours. Now there's nothing wrong with those jobs, but some people will just be like, I just want to get on there and I just want to do 7 years, man. Like I just want to be on these magazines. I want to get in for celebrity reasons, right? And there's less of an analytical brain, like an analytical artistic brain, I think, that is applied to that type of thinking. I think that if you want to be a good actor, you have to really think laterally, right? Like you have to kind of think outside the box and you have to do your research. Because when you look at a person, like if you just look at a whoever, right? Like anyone walking down the street, there's some shit going on. Like there is a lot going on there. They might have like, I don't know, they might have some kind of long-lasting injury. So they're limping, or like not even really limping. Like maybe they just kind of have their toes pigeoned a little, like they're kind of pointing in, and then you kind of like listen to them talk and you're like, wow, like what happened in your life, man, right? And all of that stuff is I kind of think about that stuff as it's all about the knowledge that you want to kind of gather to make your characters interesting and therefore more watchable because they're more real. And a lot of the time, something that's my acting philosophy that's got me in trouble, but I stick by it and I think it's really helpful, is that you aim for a cutback note. Mm-hmm. So it's like you want to go too far, because usually it's easier, I think, as a mantra to go, I'm going to go to 100, because then you can easily pull it back from 100 as opposed to going, I'm going to go to 10 and push it to 100, you know? That's what I think about it, but yeah.
Yeah. Funnily enough, I have the same or a very similar philosophy to drumming is of my friend from uni. He always used to say, man, just lay in.
What does that mean?
That means just give it your all. You know,
right.
Really commit to the groove you're playing. Like even if it's not the best groove at that particular point in time, it's still, to an audience's perspective, going to sound good because you're committing to that dynamic, to that rhythm, to that particular style. And if it's not the best thing that'll happen, even if you're committing, you can sort of listen and keep your ears open and go with what's going on. So like, you know, obviously it can get you in trouble if you're reading off a score and you go, that's not cool. That's not a very idiomatic fill. I'm going to do something that's a bit more
that's a great
actually better.
That should be a good shirt. It's not a very idiomatic fill.
Yeah. So I'm assuming you would do the same. Like, what are the lines though then of say learning lines and thinking that character really wouldn't say that?
Again, there's kind of a lot of different philosophies on this, right? And one of the big philosophies on it is writer is king, is one of the sayings, right? Which means that the person that let's say you're reading a play and you read a line and you think that, right? And it's a new play and it's gone through a bunch of workshops and a bunch of work, right? That line that you're kind of looking at going like, I don't think they'd say that. That line has been thought about and has been like meditated on and tortured over by that writer for weeks, right? Yeah. Usually. Like everything is usually there for a really specific reason. And one thing that we got taught with like Shakespeare, for instance, is you go back and you look at the first folio, which you know about that first folio, right? It's like the first time that his stuff was written down and collated into one series, right? And when you look at the first folio, it's meant to be the closest thing to what we think is as accurate as what actually happened or what was said but in his plays. Yeah. And if you look at the way the text is set up, there's all these really kind of fascinating things, right? Like text analysis work, I got that really like drilled into me at drama school, and I really vouch for it. I think that text analysis work is like the way to go. And if you look at the first folio, there are sections where there'll be like a bit, like extra space between a word, for instance. Yeah. Or one word will have a capital that is in the middle of a line that doesn't normally have a capital. Or there are extra letters in certain words. And a lot of that is because when the person who was writing it down, or when Shakespeare was writing it down, he would add in a capital letter to be like, I really want you to hit that word, you know? Yeah. And so when you're kind of looking at it, it gives you hints. And good writers give you hints in their work, where there's a full stop, where there's a colon, where there's a semicolon, where there's like an exclamation mark, whatever. Good writers have all that stuff in there, and it makes it a lot easier for an actor.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Like stuff like Sondheim has it. And he also, what's cool about Sondheim, I think, is in my like limited knowledge of it, is that he does a lot of that in music, which is really cool. And if you watch really good actors like Mandy Patinkin doing Sunny in the Park with George, and he's singing Finishing the Hat, there's a part right at the beginning when he sort of goes like, yes, she looks for me, good, tell me how she, right? And there's like a ding that happens early on, and he uses the ding as a way to kind of pull him into like an imaginative state. Yeah. And it's great because you kind of go, oh, cool, you kind of all work together. And when everybody works together, like when you kind of really trust the writer, it makes the work better, I think.
Yeah, it most definitely does. After seeing shows from the back of the stage, but also being involved from the front of the stage in a non-directorial capacity, I was doing extra orchestrations for Young Frankenstein,
Oh, yeah.
which was here at the Hayes at
Yeah.
the beginning of 2021. Yes, that is the year. And just seeing how all of these different elements would come together to create a full show. Certain lighting cues that go together with certain band hits, which are accentuated by certain movements of people, which you can't get a perspective of from in the pit, or necessarily get a perspective of even if you're on stage, I would assume.
Yeah. Sometimes it's weird doing a show and like, there's a lot of AV or there's a lot of crazy lighting stuff going on or even sound stuff because you don't hear it the same way or see it the same way the audience does.
Yeah.
And a lot of actors I know, it depends obviously on the role and stuff, but like they will during tech or dress runs when they can, they'll just kind of sneak around to the front of the theater to be able to see the show and listen to it.
Yeah.
Which is why design presentations are really important as well. And they're always really good to, as an actor, if you're really paying attention, it can really help with your performance because you all work together.
Yeah, most definitely. Like I found when watching even the tech of Merrily, I had, not the tech, one of the run-throughs where you were just
There were
running
a lot
through
of
it.
them, yeah.
And I was sitting out the front. I actually got to watch the show. All of the beats and the accents, the subtleties of the shift in what I would actually do on the drum kit changed because I had a perspective of the show.
Yeah, great.
A very similar thing happened when I was playing Rent, got to see the show. It was like, oh, that's why those things are happening.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's always that benefit of seeing the bigger picture and not just focusing in on your small cogged part.
Yeah. I mean, I think, different people have different kind of philosophies on it, I think, but I think it is really important to kind of really nail what you have to do, whether it's in the band, if it's a musician, or it's lighting, or it's anything. And you kind of put your trust in the director because the director is the one who's kind of overseeing everything and kind of guiding it all, or musical director, or with the musical director, really. And yeah, I think those things, I use those things, those sort of, without being disrespectful, but those peripheral things to me, because at the time I'm thinking about my own shit. So I kind of think about those things as like great little things to help me along the way, but I also want to really make sure that I'm focusing on myself to make sure that I'm doing the best thing, knowing and trusting that the director will be able to guide that in the best way with the other people. And, I always try and make an effort to not separate myself from other members of the sort of show, like whether it's in the band or if it's in lighting or sound or whatever.
Yeah. And so, we've been in this show for
a long time.
It's been it's several months.
Yeah, well, I think we were meant to do it in 2020. So it finished like, I don't know, March 2020 we were meant to start, I think, or May, I can't remember. And then that obviously didn't happen. And then we did rehearsals earlier this year.
Yes.
Yeah. And then that all got shut down too. But we've all been connecting and staying in touch and stuff, which helps.
Yeah. And that brings on to a really important point which has been spoken about, I don't think loudly enough, but the tumultuous nature of the arts industry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And especially the live performance arts industry.
Yeah. Like that's pretty stable. I don't know what you're talking about.
We're always getting our money from the government.
Yeah. Everything just runs smoothly. Everyone's happy.
But you're obviously working right now. You have your film and TV company.
Yeah.
Which is General Legends.
Yeah.
How do you feel like you've found current success, and what do you define as success? And if you want to expand upon more with your company with that. Yeah,
it's a little bit, it's tricky to kind of nail down what I would interpret as success, okay? Because there's two parts of my brain that kind of want to say different things.
Yep.
One part's like originally when I was really graduating, there's this amazing actor who came and chatted to us. His name's Ewan Leslie. And I've worked with him since I graduated, but I didn't know him at the time. And he came in and he said that he didn't work professionally for 3 years after he graduated. And Ewan's a prolific actor. He's a very good actor. And he's won awards. He's worked for everyone, including film and TV. And he's a beautiful actor to watch. And he said to us, he's like, I didn't get paid to act for 3 years. I graduated drama school, signed with the top agent. I didn't get any paid work for 3 years, right? So I was like, cool, I'll give myself 5 years. And so initially my view of success was getting paid to act, right?
Yeah.
And then as I got older and got more work and things changed, my kind of where I was reaching for changed. So then it became about going, well, I just want to be able to live off it. I don't have to get another job. And then it was like, okay, I'd like to be able to save up enough money to hopefully one day be able to buy a house or buy property, you know, to have earned something tangible with my career, right? And then now it's kind of evolved to this idea of going, well, I want to actually have an impact. So I want to be able to make things and be a part of projects that are exciting and fun and interesting and also a little bit challenging and a bit satirical as well. And so when I first graduated drama school, a bunch of my friends and I were all sitting around and we were all doing nothing. And we'd kind of been struggling to get into the room for film and TV work. So we got told by people who are doing different things, like you kind of hear about successful actors who made their own shit, right? Like the people from a TV show called Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So they made a short film, right? So we were like, well, we should do that. And at the time, Joel Edgerton was really blowing up at the time that I kind of graduated. And I knew that he had this company called Blue Tongue. So we were like, well, let's kind of copy that model. So we came up with this like sketch, really. We kind of developed it. A friend of ours who was also in our year at drama school had also done filmmaking before he went to drama school. He was like, I'll direct it and I know people. And he kind of put us onto this awesome DOP. His name's Simon Collode and he's a legend. And we wrote this little 7-minute short film for Tropfest. Made it on nothing, on like $1,000, $2,000 something. Everyone did it for favors. We managed to get free food from this awesome place who still give us free food. And or cheaper food. And it did well. It got into Tropfest, which is great. We didn't expect that to happen. I mean, we were hoping. It got into Tropfest and won a little like 16th finalist award. Didn't win anything else, but it kind of was a really good indicator that what we're doing, we were heading in the right direction with what we were doing. It kind of validated that creative identity that I wanted to kind of have for myself. And then originally there was a whole bunch of us all doing it together, and then time went by and people did other stuff and people stopped acting or they went off and did whatever and they didn't really want to contribute to the group of people. So then it just kind of whittled down to like 3 or 4 of us, which is the General Legends group now. And we've been making stuff ever since, and it's always been really encouraging and it's always been a really good kind of mental health boost, weirdly enough, because there's been some really funny shit that we've done. Like, there's been really funny moments of things that maybe the end product hasn't reached where we've wanted it to reach, but it's all kind of experimenting, and we're all kind of we've been making everything to try and build up enough material to get enough accolades or get enough laurels from festivals, which we've been getting a bunch of, to be able to apply for funding, to be able to make something that we can pay people to make, and that will actually have some really good commentary and comedic commentary on Australia. That's kind of where we've kind of landed with it all. We kind of like doing kind of sort of like political satirical comedy is what we really like, because we're all really affected by it. Like one of the jokes that we wrote is in one of these shorts we made, someone from the government's chasing us down. And the line that we came up with is like, well, we've got to go somewhere where no government will ever find us. And then we look up the address to an independent theatre company because we know the government will never go there. And like, it's very stupid, but we were like, great, you know. And at the time when we were making that short, there were all the lockdowns. So they're on the run from these people. They're like, where can we go? And they're like, well, everything's closed. We can't go anywhere. And trying to upload this information, but the NBN is so slow. It'll take days to upload the information, you know, all that kind of stuff. Because, me and the guys who I write with and make stuff with, we all want to use comedy as a way to just highlight a few little immoral choices from government or,
Yeah.
you know, kind of help just highlight some things that we think are a little bit troublesome.
Yeah, and as we were stating before, it's what you do as an artist, as a creative, is a reflection on what is actually going on in the real world.
Yeah.
Like art imitating life, life imitating art.
Mm.
You do a lot of things.
Mhm.
Like you're a producer.
That's sort of just as like a kind of what's just had to happen as a result of making my own stuff.
Yes.
I don't think producing is really something that I get a lot of joy out of, to be honest. I really like writing and directing and acting and editing. I really like editing stuff. Like I got taught how to edit on Premiere Pro from a friend of mine. It's a guy called Andy Eisenberg who's awesome and he does it professionally. He taught me.
Oh, lovely.
But video editing I really like. Producing's just it's not a huge passion. It sort of feels like a necessity.
Yes. Yes, as I was actually just talking about with Dan, it's you find a lot of tools and a lot of things that you need to actually get good at to survive in the creative industry. Like I don't just play drums, I write sheet music and orchestrate, teaching as well. Like I genuinely love teaching, but it's all of these tools to not necessarily work a in quotes day job.
Yeah, I'm the same. That when I graduated drama school, I was like, if I just act, then then I'm kind of missing out on other parts of the entertainment and arts industry that I would like to be in. You know, so my mum's family anyway, had all been singers. Or my dad's family had been singers too. That was something that I was like, well, I know I can sing, so I should just keep pushing for that. So that kind of has been helpful. Same with voiceover work as well. And that's why I've been able to kind of diversify my income a little bit and not have to get a day job, because I've been very fortunate to get work as a voiceover artist or as an actor or as a musical theatre performer or a singer. Dance, I've never quite got there, you know? Could never quite do it. I haven't been dancing since, you go to an audition for a musical and you see someone's like, yeah, this is the dance school. And they're like, bang, 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 bang. Or buff kiss, which is like a great term that I heard the other day. And everyone's buffing and kissing and dancing. And I'm just there and I feel kind of like this. I'm like, what? And, people move. I'm in awe of dancers. Like they can move so well and it is so impressive. It is so impressive.
Yeah. Like, I wish I could dance. I always do the grandpa dance.
Grandpa dance is great though,
It's good enough.
Yeah.
Or the dice roll.
Oh yeah, the dice roll, and there's the supermarket, there's a shopping cart, there's all
Picking
that.
berries.
That's right, picking berries.
You have your three that whenever you go out and like
that's right.
That's the three I'll use.
Yeah, that's right.
But with that, obviously there are a lot of people out there and whoever's listening who might be wanting to get into an acting career. What are the lateral thinking type jobs that you can definitely do with your skill set that somebody might not have any idea that they could do as being an actor, like with their voice, their body, etc.?
Yeah, I think voice work is handy, right? Voiceover work pays really well because it's advertising. And if you've been working on your voice, which you should be if you want to be an actor, usually you have a pretty good capacity to do voiceover work. You just have to have certain skills like sight reading.
Can you just define sight reading? Because there is a tangible difference between sight reading and sight singing.
Yeah, so sight reading is basically getting given something that has any kind of text on it, so a book or a script or something, and you read it as you're kind of looking at it, and it sounds good. That's the very sort of layman's term, yeah. But what you're actually doing is to be very technical about it, you're actually reading ahead with your eyes, sort of seeing what's coming, and then you're speaking what you've just read with your eyes.
Okay, wow. Yeah.
That's sort of what sight reading is.
Yeah, because when we all listen to audiobooks or listen to advertisements or whatever, there's always a cleanness and a crispness to the voice within those things.
Yeah.
And as we know, studio time costs money. And obviously, if
Yeah.
you're able to straight away get a really clean and crisp tone and do a single or two takes of something and then that's it, you're saving whoever's hiring that.
Yeah. Well, to get kind of technical about that, usually when they book your studio time, they book you for an hour. Minimum, I think, is an hour.
Yeah.
Right? Usually. And that might be for a project, which might have multiple voices in it, right? So, yes, you want to be really efficient and as effective in the time as you can be. But also, because everything's digital now, it's really easy to adjust things.
Yeah.
So, if you do fuck up, it's okay. You know? Back in the day when it was on tape,
Yeah.
that was a lot. There was a whole thing. You had to be really careful about the way you spoke. You had to like be careful with your breath. You had to be really careful with all these different things because if you breathed too loudly, it sounded like just then it sounded weird.
Yeah.
And it didn't sound right. And so they would have to stop the tape and go back and listen through to a bit when they could come back in, and then had to get you back in. So like it was a whole different kettle of fish, and tape cost money. So like it was a whole different thing. Now it's a lot more accessible. People have home studio setups. Like I've got a home studio setup as well, which I don't really use that much, but it's there, it's handy, and I do use it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, and are there any other avenues of work where you can actually put these tools into practice and, you know, earn a living off of?
Yeah, I think that there's quite a broad spectrum of acting work as well, right? That doesn't normally get talked about. Like theatre and education is one of them. My first job was with Bell Shakespeare Company, going around doing Shakespeare to high school kids, which was called Actors at Work at the time. And that taught me a lot of lessons. And that's a market that is open for people because not everybody wants to do that. And there's a lot of different things like that that are available to you. But a good agent will know about those things. And also a good agent, you know, will sit down with you and talk to you about your career and what you want to do, what you don't want to do, what you're comfortable doing. Advertising is great for money, for instance. An ad is great. You just get paid a chunk of money. And that's awesome, you know. And also there are some other kind of left of field stuff. Like I know people who in LA for Halloween, there would be kind of interactive parties where there would be this person would be walking around with a tennis racket coming out of their chest like they'd been stabbed through, sort of running around a party as if someone had just killed them. And then there was another person walking around the party with an axe, like dragging it behind them. And so you can get paid to be like entertainment as well.
Yes.
I know people who have done stuff in high rollers rooms. Like they've all been women and they've been kind of standing around doing kind of like catering work, kind of. But they're just really there for conversation, to talk to people. And then I know a guy who got paid, I think this is right, he got paid to be at a business to go to functions that the business would have, like drinks on a Friday afternoon at the end of the week. He would get paid to go there and just talk to people, like be friendly and nice and open and introduce people and get conversations going. That was his job for a while.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Wow.
it's an awesome job because if you're especially if you're extroverted, it's fucking great. You can just be like, hey, Bill, this is Mary. You know, Mary works in accounting or wherever, and this person works in wherever. So that's what he did. He got paid to do that for a while. He's now a DJ and he's doing very well.
Yeah, well, actually, DJ work gets quite a bit of cash.
Yeah.
But with all of these skills that you've accumulated over, you know, these past decade and a bit,
Yep.
and also with what you were doing in high school, how did that accumulate to, you know, writing and directing and editing your show Unimaginary?
Yeah, so a lot of it kind of came out of necessity, to be honest.
Yeah.
And brutal about it, right? Like when I kind of graduated, I think every actor feels this when they graduate drama school, is they kind of go, I'm going to be that 1%. I'm going to be that 1% that gets straight into that movie. And then that movie takes me onto that movie. And then I'm always acting, right? And some people are really lucky and get that break, you know? And awesome, that's awesome, you know? That didn't happen for me. So I started making work to try and get myself work,
Yes.
basically, and then realized that I really enjoyed it and got a lot of joy from it and want to keep doing it. And now I want to do it at a bigger level. With Unimaginary, we were kind of doing these shorts that were always restricted. So there was always like, they have to be 7 minutes because of a Trop Fest, or they have to do whatever. And I'd come up with this short film about a group, the office of imaginary friends, essentially, but making it kind of like real people. I also wanted to direct it, which was the first time I directed anything. I also wanted to edit it, which was the first time I'd edited anything and written anything on my own and produced anything on my own. Well, not on my own, but I'd produced anything. So it was like a big experiment. And I'd noticed that whenever we were making stuff, all the really good stuff, like all the really in the moment shit that's really great with film and TV, and what makes film and TV unique is that you can capture like these really hilarious, impulsive moments, right? Through either improvisation or whatever. They were always lost because of time restraint. Yeah. So I'd written this thing that was like 15, 16 pages long, and we got 3 days, I think, to shoot it in. And I had a bunch of meetings with all the creatives and all the other actors, and I'd kind of told them all that I want this to be kind of like a Christopher Guest or Harry Shearer film. So like Best in Show, or This is Spinal Tap, things like that. Yeah. So I did a bunch of research on how they shot and shoot their films, and chatted that all through with the actors, who were all very good improvisers. And then we started shooting and really encouraged improvisation. And then by the end of the 3 days, this like 15-page thing, because usually it's about a minute a page, right? Ended up blowing up to about 45 minutes worth of content. So I was like, oh, wow, this is great. And everyone kind of knew what was going on originally, knowing that this is more of like kind of like a comedic experiment. Yeah. And so I started editing it, and it wasn't quite enough to make it into a feature film. And it was too long to be a short film. So I thought I'd make it into a web series of about 8 to 10 minutes each episode, which isn't really part of the web series formula. But that's what I did. And I kind of edited it through, and learnt a whole bunch of stuff. And it was really productive. It ended up doing okay. It like got some laurels with the worldwide, Worldwide Comedy Festival London, I think. Another one called Indie Fest, and some other places really liked it and gave us some like accolades, which was great. But a lot of other places were like, we really like this. It's just too long, or it's not the right formula. So for a web series, but it's really good. Like, make another thing and send it to us. So that's what we're doing at the moment. A friend of mine, who's one of the General Relations names, Alex Giles, he's awesome. He's written this really great web series, and that we're going to shoot it in January over about 4 days. And he wants me to direct it and be in it, which is great, and edit it, I think. But we kind of had a big chat about it, like kind of a production meeting about it, where I'm like, well, if we want to make this into a web series, we have to kind of stick to the right time frames of it. Yeah. But we can still shoot the shit out of it and use heaps of it and get a lot of content and use all the content. We just have to have it in like 5 minute, 6 minute intervals, you know?
Yeah. So through all of this, what main tips, principles would you give to somebody who's in high school, who's just about to go into university for acting, or somebody who is a mature age student? Yeah. What would you say to them? What would be a good path?
So if this is something that you want to do, I think it's really important for you to realistically educate yourself in it. To go like, well, what can I learn? What's possible for me to learn? And set yourself some goals. Like, what can I actually achieve in the short term, medium term, long term? Do it. And that's the big thing, is doing it. Yeah. There are some amazing people that I know who are incredible, and they're too afraid to do it. Yeah. Right? Like, they're just too afraid to write that thing, or they've written that thing, but they're too afraid to send it to somebody, or they're too afraid to get someone to look at it. There's a whole bunch of different philosophies on writing and shit. And one of them that I really like is like, within a sort of respectful environment, show it to people. Yes. And see what they think and get feedback, and, you know, take it with a grain of salt sometimes, because some people are just shitheads and jealous or whatever. But keep trying to make stuff, keep making stuff, keep doing everything you can to be as busy as you can within that world, is what I think. And like, it sounds really stupid because it's my fucking primary school motto, but aim high. Like, aim as high. It's soaked in, you know? Like, trying where I want to get to isn't where I am now. And hopefully I can get to where I want to get to, you know? Yeah. And if I can't, that's cool. I gave it a really hard go. You know, that's my kind of life mantra is like, I just want to try and get to a certain level, and I'm going to do all I can to try and get there and work as hard as I can and be a kind, good-hearted person is the other thing. People don't want to work with dickheads. So don't be a dickhead. Just like be a good person, work your ass off, and things will happen. But it's really hard. It's really hard. It's just because you're the best person doesn't mean you will get work. You can be the worst person and get the job because people find the bad acting funny. Like, you know, that's why I create my own work, because I'm like, if I create my own thing, I've got a job.
Yep.
So I think my advice would be just work your butt off, educate yourself as much as you can in it, be kind to yourself and to other people, and aim high.
Well, that is some incredible advice there, Aaron Tsindos. Thank you so much for being on this.
Hey, no worries, Simon.
It's almost our hour call, so we should wrap this up.
Yeah.
But it's been a real pleasure talking to you and learning a bit more about you for myself as well.
Thank you very much. And Zoe ke Kipria means Cyprus for life, or life for Cyprus. So there you go.
Oh, thank you so much. Is there any other places where people can find you or your material or anything?
Yeah, General Legends has an Instagram account, which is just General Legends. And we also have a website, which is generallegends.com and .com.au, I think. And all of our stuff is on that as well. And there's, I'm on Instagram under my name, Aaron Tsindos, or A Tsindos. I can't remember. Same with Twitter and stuff like that.
I'll make sure all of this is in the description.
Oh, thank you.
But thank you so much. The next people who will be on, I've said it before, but you know, some other directors, vocal coaches, musical directors, and whatnot. So again, thank you very much, Aaron Tsindos.
No worries.
And enjoy whenever you're listening to this, which will be whenever, I guess.
Yeah, great.
Have a good one.
Thanks, mate.